Hi everyone. Sorry I couldn't be here in class today, so I'm recording my presentation so you get to listen to my lovely gravelly voice in this video. One of the first badges I did was the pen tool, but rather than doing the tasks outlined in the description, I made a tutorial since I've been using the pen tool for several years now. And it was really interesting because it made me reflect on how much I've learned over the years without even knowing it. Because I mostly learned the pen tool just through tutorials I found online, like a little here, a little there, and just experimenting with it. So, like, here's something I did when I was 15, and like, I think this was 16 or 17. This is last year, and this was just a few months ago. So, you learn to use the pen tool in a lot of different ways, and making the tutorial really showed that you keep learning how to use this tool for years and years. Trying to explain how to use the pen tool was interesting because it's one thing to know how to use it in practice and another to how to use it in theory. And my experience with it is definitely more hands-on, and trying to explain it abstractly can be really complicated. Ultimately, I feel like you can read as much as you want about the pen tool, but you're not going to be able to actually use it very well unless you just play with it over and over again. And as you can see, I did for years, and it wasn't until this past year that I really started using it more to its full potential and actually using it to make vectors rather than just raster images. So it's something that it keeps evolving with you, and it's really exciting to use, and it's it helps you do stuff that you never really thought possible because it's kind of like this magic tool, and it's pretty much all I use now. I also did the blogging badge. I made this blog called LFG Looking for Girls, which is a play on the acronym LFG, which is used in online games to stand for Looking for Group. So this is focuses on my experiences as a female playing MMOs, and that's the whole area I focused on. And what I kind of anticipated was what actually happened, which is when you have to update 4 times a week, you kind of run through a lot of your ideas for content pretty quickly. And I had to, towards the end, I started having like more fluff posts. Like I had this one where I just had photos of my characters in the game I play, which are loading kind of slowly here. Um, so yeah, like this is just complete fluff, and that's how it started to go. So if you're updating a site like with a really narrow focus like this, I mean, you really have to pace yourself or keep new ideas coming because it seemed like I couldn't generate a ton of new ideas fast enough. So I've blogged before, but it was never about such a narrow focus. So I'm understanding why a lot of blogs tend to have guest bloggers and things like that because it's a little hard to keep the momentum going sometimes. I liked blogging because a lot of these things are things I just thought about myself, but I also can get kind of impatient when I write in that I don't like to put a lot of fluff in, and I just kind of present my idea and that's the end, which might not make me the best blogger. I proposed one of my own badges, which was responsive design. So I made this website, which is just a dummy artist portfolio, and it uses media queries to change the appearance of the site based on the size of your screen. So right now, this is just if your screen is greater than, let's see, what did I put it at? Greater than 980 pixels wide. So this is how it'll appear. And to illustrate the responsive design, I made it so that the background color will change when it hits the different size brackets. So if I make this smaller, see it changes to a blue background here, and you can see that the text actually gets smaller too. And then if you make it smaller, it turns green, text gets smaller. And that's mainly what I was changing with those two different brackets, other than like that. Other than the text size, that's pretty much all that was changed. And then it gets smaller still for a mobile version, which changes the layout more than the others. So I had to change where the divs were located. And same here. Like here was this is a blog, and so here's what it looks like normally. But if you change it, the categories in the blog roll section move to the bottom, as opposed to the side. And I tested this using both just moving my browser around when I made it, but I also used iPadPeek.com, which lets you simulate what your website will look like on an iPad or an iPhone, which is really handy if you don't have them. Overall, I think the responsive web design badge was the most useful one I worked on because it's something that's really big right now, as we've talked about in class. So it's really interesting to get to know how to do it and find out it's actually not all that complicated. For the Flash animation badge, rather than making a video, I made a dress-up game, which is something I've kind of been wanting to do for a while, but never really knew how or had an excuse to do it. So I just made this little animal dress-up game, and it has like different tails and outfits, and there's 3 different faces to choose from. And it was both easier and harder to make than I thought. Easier in that I wanted the outfits to be able to like snap to the figure when they got close instead of having to precisely line them up with everything. Harder in the sense that just making it was really time consuming and tedious, and some of the code I didn't really get because I used ActionScript 2, which enables all of the movement and all the snapping to the figure and stuff like that. And it's each object has its own code, and if there's too many objects, it can get pretty unwieldy, but luckily I didn't use too many. It was pretty interesting to learn exactly how much stuff goes into these little games because I see so many of them online. I thought that they would probably be really easy to make, but that just wasn't the case. So I have a whole new level of respect for people who make these. In terms of the future, I don't really see myself doing too much with Flash because it's just not really what I'm personally interested in. It was really cool to get this knocked off my list though, but it's not going to happen again.